Hello there, everybody. Welcome to Sweden that have been snowing almost the entire day today. And welcome to the first video with my new camera in my new mobile phone that I'm filming with for the first time. So hopefully this will be a better quality. It's going to be very interesting to see the results of this. And what way to do my first video with a new camera than doing a vinyl and CD update for February. February normally isn't a month that is the best months. These first months in the year usually is very slow when it comes to income of new stuff at the thrift stores and flea markets. But the month hasn't been all that bad still, because I managed to find pretty good stack of records during this month still. So I have a pretty good stack of vinyl and I have some CDs. So could have been better, could have been worse. And I'm pretty satisfied anyway, because I'm in the middle of my culling. So it's great that it's a little bit slower now, so I can concentrate on what records I will ship away before getting new ones. You see the CDs over there? Those are CDs that is going away from the collection. So soon it will be the annual culling video. But before that, what has been coming in to the collection this month? Starting with CDs, it's going to be a whole lot of Swedish records today. I've been finding a lot of these, but starting with some jazz. Jazz that first is a little bit different. It is an album that I have listened to, and I was really knocked out on how great it actually was. This is a compilation with different jazz musicians in more modern style, doing their versions of 90s hit songs. Jazz and 90s, the coolest and sexiest songbook of the 90s. This is it's not the first time that they're doing jazz versions of pop songs. Both Paul Anka and Pat Boone have done it also in more modern times. But as much as I love Paul Anka and Pat Boone's recordings of big band versions of the modern rock songs, there are more as a special event to hear how it would sound like if you're doing big band version of Smells Like Teen Spirit or something like that. This one is taking it to another level, because it's not only fascinating to listen to how they have taking a modern pop song and turn it into a jazz melody, but it also so very well made musically with genuine jazz solos, and it's they made it so special in some form, in a whole different level, that I think this is definitely one of the most interesting records that I've been finding so far this year. And what kind of songs do they do? Well, we have stuff like Space Cowboy, Jamiroquai, Radiohead Creep, Crystal Waters, Gypsy Woman, No Doubt Don't Speak, Wonderwall, Oasis, Personal Jesus, Depeche Mode in jazz version. We have In Excess, Suicide Blonde, real great version in jazz version actually. Soundgarden, Black Hole Sun, Guns N' Roses in a Latin jazz version of November Rain. Lenny Kravitz is Ain't Over Till It's Over, Missing, Everything But a Girl, and then Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit. So this one is highly recommended. There are a couple of records in the same series. This is released by something called PMB Music. I have no idea what it is, and I had very hard time finding any information about it. But they have also been releasing jazz in the 70s and jazz in the 80s with music from those decades in jazz versions that I hope to get hold of one day, because this is very, very interesting. Here you can see the artists that are playing. I'm not all that into jazz in today's form, so I have no idea who they are, but it's very, very great, very well made. And no big bands there. It's either a piano trio or at most a quintet. And speaking of small band jazz, a whole lot of Dave Brubeck this time. First, we have here this a Jazz Hour with, a label that has been releasing a whole lot of great stuff, but also some stuff that aren't all that interesting. But this time it's going to be very interesting because it's Take 5, Dave Brubeck Quartet. This is Dave Brubeck with Chris Brubeck bass, Bill Smith clarinet, and Randy Jones drums. Those are live recordings from 1982 and 83. So no Paul Desmond here, but it's going to be very, very interesting, as I am just in my stadium to develop my interest of Dave Brubeck. Found this one for 50 cents. Daryl Hall without John Oates, Soul Alone from 93. Some Swedish CDs. We have Charlie Norman, Swedish jazz pianist, and a live album with Ronnie Gardner drums and P.O. Jönis bass. Charlie Norman is a real funny guy, also. It's both interesting to hear him talk and, of course, play. This is recorded at a jazz festival in our neighbor community, Härnösand, that I have been to once and shown when I'm buying records there. So in the past. So if you go back in in the archive, you might see a video from Härnösand. Yes, but this is a live recording. It's going to be very, very interesting. And I also been wanting for so long to have an album with one of the few interesting Swedish artists that has been coming up for the past decade. I don't listen all that much to Swedish music artists of today, but one exception that I really like is a singer called Pernilla Andersson, or name should I say, a singer-songwriter style, but it's not all that easy to find records with her. But I actually finally managed to find this one album called Ö. I don't know now whether this is meant to be the final letter in the Swedish alphabet or the Swedish version of Island. I think it is the later one. But have done Summer Day, Dance With You, a really, really great song. Been listening a lot to her on YouTube and so on. And finally I have an album with her. It's going to be very, very interesting. So with that, let's go to this huge stack of vinyl. I'm going to start with some albums I got for free, actually. A friend of mine came and said that he at Återbruket, a thrift store that I go to pretty often, they have a wagon outside where they put stuff that is not all that valuable, that nobody wants, and they give away for free. And this friend said that they have put vinyls there for free. So I went there and picked up some really interesting stuff. Of course, when I get it for free, you can do some, uh, don't call it blind buys when I picked it for free, but stuff that I have no clue what it is. And this was that case. I have no idea what this actually was. Something called Gorgoni, Martin plus Taylor. We have Al Gorgoni, Trade Martin, and Chip Taylor. And I had no idea what this was. I went for the reason why I thought it was interesting is that it was released on Buddha Records, who has been releasing a lot of great stuff, disco and soul and so on, in the 70s. So I picked it up and listened to it, and it was really, really great. It was a singer-songwriter style for all of us who likes America. A little America in the style, actually, with a lot of guitars and singing in chorus and so on, singing very well together. I'm not going to say that it's just as strong melodies as America has, but still it is very, very great album that I really, really like. Unfortunately, this band I think only made 2 albums, so it wasn't a very long project, but highly recommended. This Gargoni, Martin, and Taylor. And we have another album that also I have only listened to quick peeks, but it sounds really, really interesting. Really happy to find this one also. Hugo Carmichael sings Carmichael. Also, I got this one for free. With Pacific Jazzman, arranged and conducted by Johnny Mandel. And sounds interesting enough. That is Hugo Carmichael singing Carmichael. Of course, this is a album where Hugo Carmichael sounds a little bit older, of course. But take a look at the solos here. We have Art Pepper, we have Harry Sweets Edison, we have Jimmy Rose. So it's not only, it's not something like an entertainment music with strings and so on. It's just real great, finest jazz musicians playing here along with Hugo Carmichael singing. So this one will be very interesting to listen to in full length. More jazz, but we're shifting to the style jazz in classic style, classical music with jazz style, call it. I said that would be more Dave Brubeck. That Dave Brubeck was a whole lot of this time, and this is an album that I hesitated to buy for a long time because it didn't look all that good, and the sleeve it doesn't look all that interesting. It looks pretty worn out, and the record was in so quality, but I felt like I couldn't leave it behind. I was too curious to hear what this actually was. Dave Brubeck Quartet, this time with Paul Desmond, plays music from West Side Story, here along with New York Philharmonic, conducted by Leonard Bernstein himself. Listen to quick peeks and it sounds very, very interesting, very, very special, and very, very interesting. And it's actually listenable, even though it wasn't mind condition, actually. Sticking with the New York Philharmonic, this one I bought also out of pure curiosity. I don't buy classical music all that much, even though I like it. But this one looks very interesting. We have this time the New York Philharmonic is conducted by Michael Tilson Thomas, who also conducting the Columbia Jazz Band in George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue. However, the interesting thing here is 1925 piano rolls with George Gershwin himself playing. So they've taken George Gershwin's recording and put it together with a live studio recording of with the New York Philharmonic and Columbia and the Columbia Jazz Band. So I got real curious with George Gershwin playing this himself. This one I listened to, and it is real great. Not like anything classical I've listened to before, but it's very interesting combining the elements of jazz with classical music and with a symphony orchestra. So a really interesting album. Now we go to more jazz, a lot of jazz this time, but we're going to a stack of Swedish jazz that I managed to find. This is a compilation that I was very interested in. A compilation of three, in a series of three records. We have a series of records with Swedish swing from the 30s. This is Swing, svenska swingepoken 1935 till 39. Swing, the Swedish swing era 1935 to 39. Released on the label Sonora, most famous for releasing a whole lot of 78s with some of the greatest Swedish Schlager singers. So it's not often that I buy records with Sonora, but this is interesting. This is volume 2. We have here volume 3, volume 1, with the Swedish swing from the 30s. We have here not for you that famous names like Håkan von Eichwall's orchestra, Arne Hülfer's orchestra, Swing Swingers, but also recordings with Benny Carter, the Benny Carter, alongside with Sonora Swing Band in recordings from 36 and 37 when Benny Carter was here recording with Swedish musicians. So it's going to be very interesting to listen to these. And more. Pick up some records with Swedish pianist Jan Johansson. It's interesting how a lot of music taste has changed through the years since I started Vinyl Community. 10 years ago, if someone said that I would buy records with Dave Brubeck, I would say, you're nuts. I didn't like him all that much then. And since I started Vinyl Community, I've started to like Dave Brubeck a whole lot more. The same goes with Swedish musician Jan Johansson, that I think is really great. Jan Johansson is famous for records with where he plays plays Swedish folk music in jazz version. And also he released an album with Russian folk music in jazz version. And here is a third part where he, alongside with Danish violinist Sven Asmussen, plays the jazz versions of Hungarian songs. Jazz på ungerska, jazz in Hungarian. Listen to this one, and it is not that strong as the jazz in Swedish and jazz in Russian, jazz på svenska, jazz på ryska, but it is still a real great one. So it's very exciting to listen to how he has arranged these old Hungarian songs. And also a double album with Jan Johansson, this magnificent pianist. Spelar musik på sitt eget vis. And he plays here both jazz standards alongside with also jazz versions of Swedish ballads and folk music. And he plays with a lot of Swedish jazz elites like Arne Donerus, Björn Nerem, he's Norwegian, but okay. Georg Riedel and Rune Gustafsson and so on. A double LP set. It's going to be very interesting. Now, leaving jazz for this time, going into the 70s. Managed to find a Carpenters album, that I've had on my wish list. This is Horizons from 1974. I really like this envelope looking cover actually. But this is a great album. Listen to it, and it's real vintage, genuine Carpenters, like it should sound like, and Karen Carpenter's magnificent, fantastic voice. So highly recommended. Real worth the searching. Also on my wish list was this real, I think it is the first, I'm not sure, but this album with Blondie, self-titled, from 1977. This one I haven't been able to listen to the quick peeks, and it sounds very interesting, the little I've heard, so it's going to be very interesting to listen to the full album. And you might wonder, wasn't there any 70s soul this time? Yes, there was. Not all that much, though. We have here Stevie Wonder, Signed, Sealed, Delivered. Yet another cover that doesn't look all that good, but I couldn't leave it behind for $2. And it is a real early album with Stevie Wonder from 1970. Signed, Sealed, Delivered. And everybody who gets scared of little sabotaged covers, close your eyes. Doesn't look all that good, but the record itself is in a real great shape. So only for that it's what's worth buying actually. And when we're at it at Motown, we have this Temptations, All Directions from 1972. Containing Papa Was a Rolling Stone, one of the most classic songs. Listen to quick peeks and it sounds real funky and interesting. And finally, this is not 70 soul, but close enough. It's released in 1980. I realized that some of the absolute best soul albums was released in that year, 1980. Maybe because it was standing with one foot in the 70s, the little disco era, and the other foot in something new when it comes to the 80s, a little more with experimental with synthesizer and so on, and it sounds real great together. This is The Whispers and Imagination from 1980. Listen to quick peeks of this one, and it sounds real great. It's going to be very interesting. Listen to this one. So that was my February. As I said, I will do a culling video hopefully soon. And I really want to do another of these chart videos that I did. I did last year, as you might remember, a video when I showed what I liked back when I was a kid in the shorts I made back then. That time it was 1988. It would be fun to do another one of these. So hopefully I'll be able to do it. I would only have to find a suitable chart. But until next time, I hope that every one of you have a real nice time, no matter where you are, no matter what you do. So take care and so long.